What is up, guys? Delboy here. So I wanted to make a quick video just talking about Guillermo Rigondeaux and how much, as a boxing fan, I appreciate Rigondeaux. A lot of people don't like his style. A lot of people, to me, give him a unfairly hard time. We live in an era now where we have a lot of fanboys who kind of give their fighters excuses for anything. I mentioned that in my last video. I mean, guys like Deontay Wilder, Gennady Golovkin, all of these guys, I can name more, but their fans give these guys any excuse to fight poor competition. And sometimes those excuses are relevant, and sometimes they play a factor, like I said. Wilder not being able to fight Ortiz and Povetkin, that's not his fault, and that should be taken into account. But it doesn't excuse the whole resume. Just like with Golovkin, where early on in his career, he was under a promotional issue, and multiple people at the start of his title run ducked him. We get that. Any reasonable fan is going to take that into account. But my point is, it doesn't excuse the whole resume, and it doesn't give him a free ride, which is what I feel a lot of fans do. Especially of those two fighters I mentioned. Now Golovkin, I've got no issue with Golovkin, because ultimately in his last two fights he has fought the very best competition in Canelo Alvarez and Danny Jacobs. I've got no issue with Golovkin right now because he's doing what I want as a boxing fan, and ultimately all I want is for guys to fight top competition. Deontay Wilder, on the other hand, like I said, since he's won the title he's done nothing. Again, not all his fault, but the reality is he picked a lot of those voluntary defences. So stop giving the guy excuses. Stop giving the guy passes. And it brings me on to Guillermo Rigondeaux. This guy has grievances. He's been avoided by certain fighters. Carl Frampton, Scott Quigg, Leo Santa Cruz. He was even avoided by his mandatory at one point, Chris Avalos. He has been heavily avoided at super bantamweight, heavily avoided, and to say otherwise is wrong. He's been struggling to get the top names since he beat Nonito Donaire, and that was over 4 years ago now. He's been calling for all the fights. He's done his end of the bargain in terms of calling them out, but these guys have not rose to the challenge kind of thing. And not only that, he's had to deal with sort of even promotional issues himself with networks not wanting to show his fights and things of that nature. So Rigondeaux to me is a guy who has genuine grievances. Now that doesn't excuse his whole career, I'm not saying that, but he's got far more grievances than somebody like Deontay Wilder, in my opinion. He really does. And what's he doing right now? He is doing something that a lot of people thought he wouldn't do. Who thought Rigondeaux would jump up to super featherweight to fight Vasyl Lomachenko, really? I didn't expect that, to be quite honest. And by the way, I'm not making an excuse for him if he loses, but I just didn't expect that. That is a ballsy move, and I'll give him credit for that. And sometimes, when you're in a position where Rigondeaux's in, you can either sit there and complain and moan, or you can do something about it and take a massive risk, where if it pays off, it's going to look great. If it doesn't, you know what, you tried, you took a big risk, you challenged yourself. You know, no real sort of reasonable fan is going to be super critical in that case. Rigondeaux right now is doing what I would like to see from fighters when they're in that position. Take a massive risk. Try and dig yourself out of that hole that you're in. And the hole that not just you dug. So Rigondeaux to me is doing exactly what I would like to see from a fighter in that position. And so many fighters just make excuses that they're being ducked, they're being avoided, and they don't do anything about it. Yes, we should take it into account, but like I said, it doesn't excuse the whole resume, it doesn't. And Rigondeaux is doing what he needs to do. If you're being super critical, you could say Rigondeaux should have taken that risk earlier, and that's a fair criticism, but even that is just, it's not really based on fact. It's like, yes, some people say Rigondeaux could have fought Lomachenko earlier, but we don't know the ins and outs of that deal. Some people say Rigondeaux was to blame. Some people say Vasyl Lomachenko was to blame. But right now, he's taken the fight. So Rigondeaux, to me, is the type of fighter who should be admired and appreciated for what he's doing, in my opinion. So credit to Guillermo Rigondeaux for taking a big fight, a challenging fight that a lot of people don't think you're going to win. You know, just to get a big fight. So credit to him, and other fighters should really take note of Guillermo Rigondeaux right now, because he's doing exactly what somebody in that position should be willing to do, really. Ultimately, these guys are fighters, you know. So yeah, just my 2 cents. Shout out to Guillermo Rigondeaux. I appreciate what he's doing as a boxing fan. It's a fight that I'd love to see. Two of the greatest amateurs of all time going at it, and we're going to see it real soon. Credit to Rigondeaux. Guys who moan about their career predicaments, do something about it. Yeah, you can moan for so long, but there comes a time where you just need to take the plunge. You need to make that jump. Rigondeaux's doing it.